Good evening, everyone. First, we'll talk about the Australian federal election. Polling booths was opened around the country at 8 a.m. this morning, but there has already a record of number of voting early around the country. Our reporter Isabel Huther is now outside one of the Kubala polling stations in Perth. Isabel, how many people has already cast a vote before the election?
Yes, Ivan, about 1.8 million people have already cast their ballots before the election, which is nearly 250,000 more than the last federal election. The Australian Electoral Commission says there has also been a jump in the number of postal votes. It involves extra work for the AEC because, under new legislation, many of those votes will be counted on election night. 2 weeks ago, a High Court ruling meant they had to add all the people who registered to vote in the week after rolls closed. Those who turn up at local schools to vote and take advantage of the sausage sizzle, cake wheels or various raffles may notice more coverage than usual. Signs promoting the building the education revolution must be covered if they are within 6 meters of a polling booth. And that's it. Back to you, Ivan, in the studio.
Thank you very much indeed, Isabel. Now, of course, we'll keep you up to date with this election, so please do stay tuned on DHK. Now, West Australian Child Protection Minister has apologised profusely to the family of a disabled woman who allegedly sexually assaulted by a known teenager sex offender. The 17-year-old convicted sex offender has been placed in a hostel where she is under 24-hour supervision and accompanied by a carer at all times. But during a visit to his Wright home on Saturday, the teenager was left alone for 5 minutes by a carer and allegedly sexually assaulted a 25-year-old mentally disabled woman. Joining me outside now is Breaydan Edwards at the Murder Police Station. Breaydan, any evening updates you can give to us about this?
Thanks, Ivan. Police and government authorities said the woman was assaulted in a lounge room until a carer entered the room and removed the boy. The teenager has been charged with indecently dealing with an incapable person and released on bail on condition he returned to the secure group residence. On Friday, Child Protection Minister Robin McSweeney said she apologises profusely to the victim's family and would also write to them privately. The boy's grandfather said the alleged incident was due to systematic failure by the government. He said he had contacted the Department of Child Protection and written to Miss McSweeney and the Premier to ensure the teenager got help, but they had refused to listen. Miss McSweeney said police, disability services and child protection had decided at a case conference that a secure hostel was a suitable place for the boy. The boy cannot be identified due to legal reasons. That's it for now. Ivan, it's back for you.
Thanks, Breaydan. Some other stories now. A Perth judge has ruled out a Muslim woman cannot wear her traditional face covering while given evidence in a fraud trial. Moyukh Muzahid reports.
The 36-year-old woman, who is known only as Tasnim, had wanted to wear the niqab in court because there would be men there who were not her blood relations. Tasnim has worn a burqa, including a niqab which covers her face, all her adult life. She has been living in Australia for 7 years and wore the niqab at her citizenship ceremony. She has lifted the niqab for passport checks at the airport, for her driver's license photo, and for medical and dental treatment. Tasnim does not wear it at home if only direct family members are present. She is giving evidence at the fraud trial of Anwar Syed, the head of an Islamic school. On the other hand, defense lawyers raised concerns that jury members would not be able to properly assess her evidence.
However, the judge said that her decision was in no way binding on any other court, as there was no reason for her to examine or discuss Islamic religion, or to determine the practice of wearing certain garments. Moyukh Muzahid, DHK News.
The Dragonair Flight Attendants Association plans to take industrial action in this round over working hours and compensation. This follows a vote among members who say they are being made to work long hours without adequate compensation. The union's chairman, Winnie Poon, says the impact of an industrial action could be great if it went ahead, but they are still preparing to hold talks with the airline's management. The airline expressed regret over the decision. It says it's eager to hold further talks with the union. A bridge carrying a passenger train which collapsed above a river after a heavy rain in China is being put back together. Richard Lee reports.
The construction work starts just a day after downpour led to 2 train compartments plunging into a river from a railway bridge in the southwest of the country. Sections of the bridge continued to tumble into the river hours after the empty carriages were swept 200 meters downstream in Guanghan, Sichuan province on Thursday. Workers hauled the remaining carriages from the bridge using airbags in order to begin restoration work. Thousands of people have been killed, and hundreds more are still missing after large parts of China were hit by torrential rains and mudslides this year. No casualties have been reported from this latest incident. Richie Lee, DHK News.
The UK government is now doubting aid to flood-hit Pakistan amid mounting criticism of the international community's response to the disaster. Richard Lee reports again.
International Development Secretary Andrew Mitchell said the UK was offering an extra £3 million on top of the previous £1.3 million pledged to help cope with the crisis. During an emergency meeting of the United Nations General Assembly on Thursday night to boost the foreign aid commitment, Secretary-General Ban Ki-moon said the floods were like a slow-motion tsunami that presented an ongoing crisis. The UN said it has raised nearly half the £295 million wanted for the initial relief, but the response remains slow. Richie Lee, DHK News.
Conservation officials discovered a pod of more than 70 pilot whales stranded on New Zealand's Kaido Beach on Friday. Almost 60 of the mammals have already died, according to the local media. Volunteers and conservationists are working around the clock to save the creatures that remain alive. Officials says rainy weather has helped the efforts. Each of the mammals weighed around 1.5 tons. Heavy machinery has already brought in this afternoon to try to move the whales back to the sea. This is the second such incident in recent history. More than 100 whales were stranded at the same beach in 2007. Recapping our top stories now, the Australian federal election has a nail-biting poll showing both Labor and Liberal coalition has 50% support on each side. The election will be finished tonight at 6 PM local time. A Perth judge has ruled out Muslim women cannot wear their traditional face covering while giving evidence in a Ford trial. This case has sparked concern that jury members were not able to properly assess her evidence. Tasnim was given evidence at the Ford trial of Aswan Syed, the head of an Islamic school. And the UK government is now doubting aid to flood-hit Pakistan amid mounting criticism of international community response to the disaster. The UN says it raised nearly half of £295 million, wonderful initial relief, but now the response remains slow. And finally tonight, as the Australian election is running, Dirty Harry, a so-called psychic crocodile in Darwin, Australia, predicts the result for the country's election. He predicts that current Australian Prime Minister Julia Gillard will win by eating the chicken piece below her photo, while Tony Abbott's one is being left alone. Right now, this crocodile is becoming the rival of the psychic octopus Paul, who successfully predicted results about the World Cup 2010. And those are the news from DHK. I'm Ivan Leung. Pleasant viewing and good night.